and do your tour and present this as a message into the cities, talking to our brothers and sisters in mainline Christian and even our Torah observant brothers and sisters, how are you going to start that conversation? How are you going to start that conversation?
Because Jewish people have something called shtick. It's it's how we joke around and we get the things. First of all, we're a half an hour in, and I haven't given my website, so I got to do that. I'm under contractual obligation with. So it's www.repairingthebreach, just like it sounds, .global, global. Isn't that awesome? We're a family ministry, but we're global already. And all the other links to Biblical Health TV, Kingdom Consulting, which is mine also, and our tour information, which please go on and look at the tour links and find out where we can talk a little bit about where we're going and what we're doing. But go repairingthebreach.global and engage with us, please. We have free materials on there. We have not free materials on there. And I promise that pretty much most of the support that comes into the ministry goes to feed hungry children. Mine. Okay, we have 6 little ones. In fact, the oldest, I have a young man in my house today. I refuse to have a teenager. My oldest son turned 13 on the Gregorian calendar today, so it's going to get really terrifying in my life now.
Happy birthday.
Actually, we don't do birthdays, but I want to mark this. I want to mark this thing with him, my oldest, and so our families turning the page. But we're heading out to travel around the United States, all of us, for about 4 months to go out. We'd like to have an RV. We don't have one yet. If you happen to have one, hey, we'd like to borrow it or take it. That'd be fine. But right now our hopes are for a trailer to put behind our 20-year-old SUV and head out, because the Father wants us to go, and we're not using excuses of anything anymore. We're going to just walk out and do it. So we're going to be going around and going into Hebrew Roots congregations and Messianic, whatever you want to call them, going into churches to put on biblical health seminars, going and meeting with pastors to talk about how to put health programs, biblical health programs into the churches, because let's face it, folks, pretty much everybody is either fat, sick, or tired, and a lot of us are all of that. And we need to get over that. We need to get over this fat, sick, tired epidemic. And also, there's a whole thing that ties this in, which is which is evangelpreneur, which is how to have businesses, how to be free and have businesses that minister or ministries that run really well. And that's a message of, and I'm answering the question, of holiness in all things. When we did Biblical Health TV, we're in our 7th year, it started out naturally with health. My business and ministry partner, Dr. Jeff Hazim, my best friend of 15 years, almost 15 years, is a chiropractor and a nutritional expert. His wife is a chiropractor. My wife is a non-practicing chiropractor, homeschool mom. I was working for Jeff when I met her. I'm the only one who's not. That's why some people know me as not a doctor, Chaim Goldman. I'm the television production and marketing guy. And we started Biblical Health TV to get a message of health to the church, body, soul, and spirit health. But as we went on and we were trying to figure out what is this all about, one day I was talking with Jeff, like, man, they're not getting the message. What is it? And Jeff said something, and I said, whoa, back up, that's it. And what he said was holiness, set apartness. Because Christians already know that they're holy, right? They're set apart and holy. But they are holy. The church teaches holiness in some things, but in some things it's just like the world. And we realize, rather than telling people, hey, you're fat, is to say, hey, you're set apart. Look at the things that you're doing. Look at the way, entertainment is, or holiness in your marriage, or maybe you're homeschooling, so you're taking your children out of that system, or maybe in health you're not using pharmaceuticals because you know that, that's witchcraft and you shouldn't be doing that. So you have some success, but let's go farther, because if we look at the Bible, there's nothing about us being holy some of the time and secular the rest of the time. There's nothing that, my work, that's secular, but then, Wednesday nights and Sunday nights I go to church, and then that's holy, and I tithe, and that's holy, and, I'm with the same woman, so that's holy. My marriage is sort of holy, but, the fun stuff, well, that's not really holy, and, on and on, the way I eat, no, I really can't say that's holy, and sometimes my entertainment choice, no, we're holy. We're holy. So that means everything. And I give this example, and I say this very early in the talk. I say, look, take out like a legal pad in your mind, or literally. Draw a T on it. You have 2 columns. On the left side, we're going to write down everything in your life that God cares about. And on the right side of the list, we're going to write down everything in your life that God doesn't care about. And I promise you that I will not talk to you or confront you at all with the things on the right side of the list, because there is nothing on the right side of the list. And so we have to realize, if we say, well, does God care about my marriage? Yeah. Does he care about my finances? Yeah. Does he care about what I do for a living? Yes. Does he care about what I eat? Yes. Does he care about how I worship? Yes. Does he care about how I dress? Yes. We have to get the fact that as believers who have been called out of darkness and into light, that his holiness has been put on us. His righteousness has been given to us. You know, was Yeshua not holy in the way he ate? You know, was Yeshua not holy in the way he talked or the way he walked around? No, you would say no. So what about us? And so we need to get over this thing of some things are secular and some things are holy. No, we're to pull everything up into the realm of set apartness. And if you want to know how to do that, well, you know what? That whole first part of the Bible, God tells us how to do that. And so when you bring the Torah like that, people say, wait a minute, they have to have their identity, right? They have to, if their identity is as Joe Christian, Jesus did everything for me, well, then you're going to have a tough Torah argument. If you make them realize, hey, wait a minute, Yeshua left the building. Yeshua is sitting up with the Father, and I was left here to walk in righteousness. I was left here to do greater works. I was left here to be this is radical, the Messiah here on the earth, because his Spirit's in me. Well, then, you know, the only thing that I can't be that Yeshua was the sacrifice for atonement, because sorry to say, I don't want to disappoint anybody, I did not live a completely holy life. Yeshua did. But the moment that he set me apart, I'm as holy as he was when he went to the cross. I have the full measure of his Spirit in me when you get the Spirit in you. And we have to understand that's real. And I do a whole thing where I teach about the living sacrifice and what it means to be a living sacrifice. That always makes the room silent when people realize that. And so when you get in front of a Christian audience, and don't say you have to do Torah, when you get in front of them as someone who says, look, we're all in this together. None of us got here because of our own works, and none of us can sustain this because of our own works. In fact, the only way we're getting out of this, folks, is by dying. The only way that we're going to walk in righteousness is by dying. The only way that we're ever going to be unified is dying, so that each one of us is conformed into the image of Messiah. And then when each one of us is conformed into his image, then we can get along. But if John, you're going to hold on to you and I'm going to hold on to me, hey buddy, we're not going to go for the, we're going to have conflict. So if we realize that Yeshua called each, thankfully those of us who are in the body are walking that walk. And someone said to me many years ago, a congregational leader, he said, if God did everything to you on the first day of your salvation that he's going to do to you the rest of your life, you would die on the operating table. You would just bleed out. It's called a sanctification process, folks. We are set apart, okay? We are justified on that day that we accept Yeshua, or really he calls us. We will be glorified at some future point. And the whole reason we were left here on this planet is to get cleaned up as his bride. That's called sanctification. And you're somewhere on that timeline, and I'm somewhere on that timeline. And there's not one of us here that isn't dependent on his mercy. Dependent. There's not one of you who kept the feast the way the Torah said so. Not one. Okay? We're all dependent on his mercy. And so let's extend that to people around us. If we're going to beat up the Christians, man, if we're going to beat them up, who are we going to hang out with? Who are we going to, the rest of the world is so dark. At least people who know Yeshua and confess him, let's hang out with them. Let's have fellowship with people who are really in the faith. I'm not talking about non-believers, really in the faith. And let's watch as the relationship transform us and them, not just them.
Yeah, and I think that you're right on that, because I know as part of our ministry we have a guy that has a weekly show that's getting ready to have a weekly show on our. He is not a Hebrew Roots guy or Torah observant guy, but we know that he loves the Messiah because he does want to be holy. He does want to obey. I mean, he's, you know, it's really interesting. But I